So in this video, I'm going to show you how to graph an equation, a function, using Excel. It'll be also an example of how to enter equations, use the fill down series, use cell references, and make a chart. So we'll start out with something simple like y is equal to 3x squared minus 5. And we have a 3x2. That's not the way it's supposed to appear. We'll have to go into the superscript edit box and make that look the way it should appear, for example, in a textbook. And that's the equation we want to graph. To make it a little more obvious, I'm going to go to the home page, put it in bold, and maybe make it 16 font so it's just a little more obvious. And then we're going to have two values, x and y, that we're going to plot against one another. I'm going to center these because I just think it looks a little bit better. And I have to pick values. I'm going to make them bold also to set them off from the calculations that we're doing. So bold and maybe 14 font. So that x values, it could be anything we want. Depends on whatever you're interested in. If we're just plotting a simple function like this, maybe I'll just start at -2. That's kind of arbitrary. And then we'll go up in small steps, maybe increments of 0.2. So we'll go 0.2 higher than -2. The next value would be -1.8, -1.6. If I want to go all the way out to positive 1.6, you could see this is going to take a lot of time. Maybe I want to go to even higher values still. So I'm going to use a shortcut. Let's get rid of these two. No, let's keep this one here. If I enter two values, what I can do is this open plus sign for a cursor will change to a black plus sign if I bring it down to the bottom right part of those two cells that are selected. And if I now click down and hold downwards as I click, and then I can drag, and you could see it'll automatically fill. It's even telling me there's a gray box down there, 0.8, 0.6. I'm going to go all the way out to, I don't know, 5. And so now it's automatically filled where the interval, the difference between, we could do the subtraction, equals this minus that. You'll see it can come out to 0.2, and that'll be true for all those values. Wait a minute, how do we do that? How do we enter an equation? Well, that's the next step here. If we have something, if we just write 2 plus 2, then we get nothing. Well, we don't get nothing, but we get this as a label. Excel treats it as text. To tell Excel that you're going to do a calculation, you use the equals sign. So equals 2 plus 2 gives me the result. Notice I still have the formula preserved up here. And then if you want to raise something to the power of 2, then that would be a caret. So if I want to take 4 and raise it to the power of 2, I can write equals 4 to the power of 2, and that gives me 16. So that caret sign there says take the value, in this case 4, and raise it to the second power. Now I started to do something as a shortcut. If I want to take 4 and square it, instead of writing 4, I could skip that and simply grab that cell. So I just come up here and click on that cell, and it enters the cell address, column H, row 2. So there's the cell address, and then I can write caret 2, and that also gives me the power of 4 to the power of 2, or 16. For multiplication, we have 3 times this thing, x squared. For multiplication, we use star. Well, we have to multiply something. Let's do 3 times 2. Oh, that doesn't work because we need to write the equals. So equals 3 times 2 would be 6. Or if we want equals 3 times 4 squared, I can do 3 times whatever that cell is, and then write caret 2, and then I've got that. And then I can add a -5 to it to complete the equation. So this is the answer for the equation when x is equal to 4. Notice I can change it to 5, and it's automatically updated. I can make it -2, and I get the value of 7. Let's enter the equation over here. So equals, to tell Excel to do a calculation, we have to put in equals. 3, I'm just going to enter this equation here, times the x values are in this column. I'll just take the x that's next to, since I'm entering something in row 10, I'll take the x that's in row 10, raised to the second power, and then -5. So I've entered that equation, 7, and fortunately it matches the value that I got when I entered the equation over here. Now what I want to do is enter the equation for all of these values of x. Now that's a lot of values. The good news is I don't have to write the equation over and over again. 3 times this to the power of 2 minus 5. That would take me a lot of time. This is the beauty of Excel. Instead, let me just erase that. I can select that, hold down the Shift key and select that cell, and go to Edit, Fill, Down. And now I've got all those values. So what if we want to graph this? We can grab all these cells, select both of them. I'll hold down the Shift key. So I'm selecting this first cell there. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and select all those. And then I can go to Insert. And then we're going to use a scatter plot. In the sciences, we always use a scatter plot, almost always, not absolutely always. And so we get this chart here. Let me drag it up over here, and then we'll zoom in a little bit. Now let's play with formatting the chart. We don't really need the chart title. Let's get rid of that. Gives us a little bit more room. And let's make this look a little bit nicer. Maybe I want a curve. And so what I did is I double clicked on those points. It opens up this dialog box on the right. And then I click on this thing here. I'm not even sure what that is, but I'm just going to click solid line for the line, and then I'll hit marker, the marker tab, marker options, hit none. And so now I get a nice clean line instead of all those little points that I don't really want just because, well, today I don't feel like it. And now to work on the axes, I'm going to double click on that vertical axis. And maybe I want to make the text a little bit bigger. So I'll come over here. Oh, I'm fine with the line. The fill is okay. So we'll come back here. Let's see, tick marks, labels, next to axis. I think I'm all okay with all those. If I just want to change the type of text, I can go to the home page, the home tab, and let's say I just want to make it Times font instead of Calibri and 14 font. And I'll do this. I'll just click it once, select that horizontal axis, and I'll make it Times. And what do? 14, so there we go. But you know what? I want to move this vertical axis, so instead of hitting it 0 and cutting the curve, I want it over here on the left, so it's a little more traditional of a view. I think all we need to do is have a vertical axis here at -2, and we don't need all this empty space. So here's the kind of the anti-intuitive thing. I want to change the vertical axis, so I'm going to click on the horizontal one. And when I come over here, I can look at the scale. It doesn't need to go all the way out to -4. So under these various options here, I'm going to click on the one that gives me axis options, and I'll make it -2. So notice it gets rid of that empty space that I wasn't plotting. And then over here, it says the vertical axis crosses at. I want to make it -2, so it shifts that over. And so now we'll just deselect that. And now we've got a little bit nicer looking of a chart. One thing I don't like, though, is that for some reason, this didn't hold the text change. So I'm going to go back to the Home tab, change this back to Times, and then change it back to 14 as I thought I had done earlier. And you know what? I think I want this horizontal axis to intersect at a little bit lower value. So to change the horizontal axis, we're going to click on the vertical. I double click to open up that dialog box, and the axis value will change. We'll hit that, I don't know, -10 looks like it's pretty good. There we go. And then I might want to add some text to remind myself what I was plotting. So we'll go to Insert, and we will take text. We will insert a text box, and I can write y is equal to 3x to the root 2 minus 5. So there's my equation. And maybe I want to, if I double click on that box, I can make it a solid fill to set it off a little bit. That is way too dark, so let's make it, I don't know, orange. That's not very attractive. Let's make it a light green. That looks better. And instead of having a caret and a 2, we could select that 2, go to the superscript. That's a special function on my Excel. It's a new tab. I had to insert that because it doesn't come as a default formatting tool. I'll go back to Home, and we'll make it, I don't know, a 16-point font. So now I have this nice label that reminds me of what kind of function I was plotting. So that's it. That's really all there is to it in terms of making a chart, doing some fill down features. There's one last thing that we could do to make this a little bit more powerful. So we have this equation. I'm just going to grab it. I'm going to move the cursor until it becomes a little hand, and I'll click and I'll drag it to get it out of the way. What I want to do is let the coefficient 3 and this constant -5 vary. So what I want instead, I'm going to do a fill down to copy it, is I want ax squared minus b, so that a and b can vary. And so I'll have a, and I'll let it be 3, and I'll have b, and I can let it be -5. So what we're going to do is basically come up with a more powerful way to control what we see in the graph and how we do the calculations. And that is, instead of the 3, I'm just going to select that value for a. Well, it's still 3, so it's not going to change anything, still 7. I'm going to take that value of -5, and I'm going to make it a plus and add this -5 over here. So now I've still got 7. Now if I fill down, I'm going to get these strange value errors because this cell, if I want to see what's going on, I can click on it up here, and it tells me what cells I'm using for the calculations. When we did the fill down and went to this cell, now we're referring to the letter Y. We don't want that. So when we fill down, when we start here and we do the fill down command, what we want to do is hold the rows constant. When we fill down, we don't want the A to change from row 7, and we don't want the B value to change from row 5. So to fix rows 7 and 5, we'll put a little $sign in front. So for G, I'll put a $sign in front of the 7, for G7, and then for G8, I'll put a $sign in front of the 8. So now when I fill down, they are all linked. Now I'm filling down the exact same equation, so as I fill down, notice that it doesn't change the numbers. They're all the same. But here's where it gets to be a lot of fun. You can now change this one number without going in and editing the equation. I can make a 5. And notice that now all the values are now updated, and the chart is updated too. Let's make the B value -10. And I'll get a new value on both the new set of values here under Y, and then also a chart that is shifted. Let's make, instead of 5, let's make it 20. Let's see what that does to the chart. Notice that all the numbers in the vertical axis shift. That's kind of a neat part of Excel. Excel does a lot of things that are not very helpful, but one of the defaults here is that if we don't set a particular set of values as a maximum, I can put in, let's say, very large values, 100, and Excel will continue changing that vertical scale or the horizontal scale if we want to fix something like this, so that the chart moves around and still plots the curve as we originally plotted so we could see it instead of taking it out of view. Now, if we fix the values, if I double click on this and I say, don't go past, let's say, 2000, then this vertical axis will be fixed. And if I pick something that is too large, then, oh, it didn't like something that I did. Let's hit undo. So if I hit, some very large number, now I'm not going to see everything that I'm plotting. Most of these numbers are going to be all out of the field of view, and we just get a small part of the chart. Anyway, that's just kind of an introduction to setting up a function, some arbitrary values using fill down and making a chart, and adding and formatting some labels and trying to make a chart look reasonably attractive. Oh, before we end, let's do one more thing. Let's add some axis labels. That's very important. We will go to, not formulas, not draw. We have to click on the chart, and if we hit the chart, then we have chart design. Over here, we have axis titles, and we'll add a primary horizontal and a primary vertical, and now we can edit these. So this is our X, and this is our Y. Of course, they can be things that are more interesting than just an X or a Y. We could select them, go to the home page, and give them a very large font so they are easier to see. And I think that's it for now.